Okay, I'm gonna have to do this video again, but excuse me for not being on here. I'm not gonna have my face on. I'm just doing my thing right now. But I was inspired to make this video because I was watching TikTok today, and I've seen these videos before, and they always agitate my soul. Like it agitates me. It really, really gets on my nerves. It was this TikTok, and this lady was saying, basically, I think she had an old classmate follow her on Instagram or something, or Facebook, whatever, and she said, just because we're grown does not mean that I forgot what you did to me when we were in middle school or high school. And all I could think about was, wow, middle school? Middle school. Like, think about, like, when it, it aggravated me so bad, but at the same time, I understood. I understood, but it still aggravated me because she basically said, she said, I'm not forgiving you. I don't forgive you at that. Like, I don't like you because of what you did to me when we were children. And that's understandable, but at the same time, you have to recognize, like, I think we forget when we're growing up with people. I think we forget how young we are, you know? Just like when you're a freshman in high school and you're looking at seniors, these people look big, but when you finally become a senior and look at freshmen, when you finally become a senior and you've grown up with these people from like 9th to 10th to 11th to 12th grade, you don't really notice much of a change in these people. Like, you might notice, like, Johnny got like 2 inches taller from last summer. But when you look back at pictures from that time period, if y'all were together growing up, you notice like how big this person has gotten. And if you look back on pictures of yourself from that time period, you're like, wow, I was a baby. You know what I mean? And imagine being able to see yourself in the flesh in that moment whenever you offended someone or someone offended you. Imagine being able to look at them in that moment. It doesn't excuse the things that children do, because children can be very just, like, children can do some evil stuff sometimes. Like, it's no excuse, but at the same time, it's important to recognize, it's important to not adopt the mindset that straight up, I'm not going to forgive you because of something that you did to me as a child. Because at that moment, you got to recognize, think about it. We have dust all around our house. You know, most people, if you never dust your house, you're going to see like dust pile up. That's literally pieces of your skin like shedding. We shed hair all the time. You know what I mean? You have to think about it in this way. If this helps anybody, think about it in this way. I don't know how long it takes for, like, basically for you to get a new coat of skin, but you have to remember, you're still in the same body. Like, you still got the same bones, you still got the same eyes, you still got the same mouth, but at the same time, when it comes to the skin, like, your bones have to grow, your muscles have to grow, your skin has to grow, your body is growing, but at the same time, you are literally shedding each day. There's a layer of you shedding each and every day. When we wash ourselves, we are taking off layers of dirt. You have to recognize, like, that person that had hurt you as a child, they might grow up to be the same. They're the same person, but at the same time, think about all the skin that they have shed in the past couple years. Like, that's just I don't know, a representation of, like, it can help you to recognize this is literally not the same person. 12-year-old Bristol is not 21-year-old Bristol, even if she still has that same mean girl mindset. That's at that point, if you're not around her, that's none of your business. And first impressions are very important. um they're very, very important. And it's hard once you get a first impression of someone to kind of get that. Once you have a certain outlook on someone, it's kind of hard to get that out of your mind about them, especially if you really have not had time to get to re-know them. If it's been a couple years since you guys have spoken, and the last memory that you have of them is them picking on you or bullying you. But you got to remember, when you think of stuff from your childhood, when you have the memories of that person, you don't think of that person as a younger person. You know what I mean? You don't see that baby face in your memories. You know what I mean? Because they didn't have a baby face to you when you were that age. You don't really recognize their age in that moment. And this is not me trying to, just forget everything. Like if you've been hurt, that's valid. Invalidate. That's not me trying to invalidate anybody's experiences, but it's important to recognize, like, your mind literally does not remember. You cannot differentiate how old this person really was when they did what they did to you. All you remember is that person's face. That's all you remember. You don't remember how young and how ignorant they were at the time. But seeing this lady's post, I saw another lady. She was a doctor, and I think she was either a doctor or a lawyer. She became very successful in that way. But she was in her 40s, and she was talking about stuff that kids did to her in middle school. Most people do not know how to heal from stuff like that. They don't. Like, most people do not know how to heal from stuff like that. Most people just have a whole bunch of band-aids on bullet wounds. You know what I mean? It's never really dealt with, so the stuff just sticks. And I'm learning myself on how to deal with certain things, because in the past, I used to be a person that was constantly in the past, constantly thinking about who did this to me. I had a victim mindset. Once I changed my mindset, my life changed. Like, I don't really care to even think or look back at the past. A lot of times, looking back at the past, even when it's bad, can say a lot about your mindset. This is one thing that I realized it revealed to me. Even in the bad, you don't think anything could get better. You know what I mean? You don't think your life is interesting in any type of way. Sometimes I think I'm a writer. So sometimes I think I used to go back, like before I started writing my books, I used to go back and just think about the past. And a lot of times, sometimes I would be hurt about it, but most of the times I really wouldn't be hurt. I enjoyed the stories, even the bad stories from it, because it was just something about me that I like storytelling. Once, after I did my first book and wrote it, I didn't stay in the past too much often. Most of my stories, and I was able, I have been able to do 4 in a year. I have so many stories in my head. A lot of times, sometimes our gifts are just perverted in the moment. You know what I mean? Literally, sometimes our gifts are literally just perverted in the moment. You're like, dang, this person is always in the past, but they might just be a writer. You know what I mean? Or they're just talking about stuff, like, even if it's bad, they just have a victim mindset. That could be another thing, but they're just excited to tell you stories about the past because they don't really have much going on now, but they still have that gift that they're a storyteller. Like, they have the gift of storytelling, like making stories interesting to people, and stuff like that. Like, you like, dang, every single thing that happens in your life seems so interesting. And sometimes when you get with the person and have that same experience, you're like, dang, you telling somebody about this experience, but you're making it seem more interesting than it really is. And they're not even lying about the experience. It's just something about the way they're speaking about it is making the thing so interesting. I seem like I'm jibber jabbering right now, but yeah, it's okay. My point is, I say, if you have a problem being in the past or living in the past in any type of way, think about writing. And then I also say, if you have a problem actually forgiving people, change your mindset about that person. One thing that has helped me to forgive people is to recognize I'm very my nature is very nurturing. So when it comes to children, I'm able to understand. I'm able to empathize. Put yourself in the mindset where you can empathize with whoever it is that hurt you. And a lot of times when we see somebody as evil, we usually see them as, when we don't forgive somebody, we see them as evil a lot of times. We think they know better. We end up objectifying that person. We see them as just evil. You know what I mean? Ask God to give you another perspective of that person. And this is also why I don't go back to people that I know are not actively trying to forgive or aren't going to God to try to forgive me, because I know how hard it is to forgive without God. Because when you forgive without God, you think that forgiveness is a feeling and it's going to come to you at a specific moment, or it's really a process. It's a process of changing your mindset, because I recognize, like, the people who have hurt me the most typically are people like and I forgive them quickly. They're typically the people that I want something from, have wanted something from, and people that I really did not think knew any better. Like, they could say some of the craziest stuff to me. I've had people say some of the craziest things to me, and I was quick to forgive them. But people that didn't say that much to me, but I'm like, you are the smartest person I've ever met. Why would you say anything like that to me? You expect perfection from certain people. That's why it's harder for you to forgive certain people. But when you have a mindset, when somebody has a mindset where you don't really think they know what they're doing, it's easier to forgive them. And I recognize throughout the years, people will also have that mindset for you when they don't think you're that smart too, which sounds like the same thing that I just said before. But have you ever had somebody belittle you, and you do something that is very embarrassing? Not just it really depends on the mindset that you have towards a person. You do something very embarrassing, and you're like, dang, they're really not going to look at me the same. But they seem like in their mind that they do. And you hear them in their mind justifying whatever it is you just did. A lot of times that can show idolization, and that can also show somebody already belittling you in their mind, to where they're like, oh yeah, of course. We get upset with people when things are unexpected, when we have certain levels that they should have hit in our minds and they don't hit them. We're more likely to be unforgiving towards them. So I say, take down all the boundaries that you have with every single person. Look at the people that have done you wrong and see, like, write down how you feel about them. And then the people that have done you wrong, but it's not as big, you know what I mean? Write it down and see the difference in expectations between both of those people. But yeah, I hope this made sense. This was just on my mind throughout the day, and I really wanted to talk about it. It was really on my mind. But yeah, make sure, change your perspective in order to forgive people. People are not always going to be perfect. You're allowed to have boundaries, just like that person is allowed to have boundaries. You don't have to have that person around. But in order for you to move on, this was my point. Most people do not teach their kids how to move on because they themselves do not know how to move on. This video was basically help through an example that I have been using throughout the years in order for me to quicken the forgiveness process, because it's not always going to be easy. I have asked God to change my perspective on certain people, and typically when I get that perspective, I usually start to see them as children, and not in a derogatory way, but I'll the same way I treat a child when they trip over something or they spill some milk or something, or they say something